Thanks for watching On Call for All Kids. Today we're going to be talking about growth spurts in teens. We'll get questions answered about when growth spurts typically hit for boys and girls, how to know how tall our child will be, and the importance of nutrition during growth and development. I'm joined by Dr. Jasmine Reese. She is the medical director of the Adolescent and Young Adult Specialty Clinic at Johns Hopkins All-Children's Hospital. And it is so great to see you, Dr. Reese.
It's good to see you, Ashley. Thanks for having me.
Well, let's talk about adolescence to start off. What do we need to know about this time in our child's life as a parent?
So adolescence is an interesting time, and it could be a really fun time. Lots of changes going on during these years, and one of those things is puberty. During puberty years, you can expect a lot of different changes that include physical changes, emotional changes, psychological changes, even social dynamics tend to change and relationships tend to change. So lots of questions during this time period. One of the most obvious changes, I think, is going to be more physical, and that's really the growth spurt where you tend to see your teen girls and boys getting much taller.
Well, when do these growth spurts typically hit for the boys and girls?
So there are some differences between when these changes occur for both boys and girls. During childhood years, you can expect about 5 to 6 centimeters of growth height per year. And then that tends to slow down just before puberty begins. During puberty years, the growth height tends to be about 8 to 10 centimeters per year. And for girls, this tends to be about 6 to 12 months before the onset of their menstrual cycle, which we call menarche. And then for boys, this tends to be just before spermarchy, which is when we start to see sperm in the seminal fluid. So some differences there as well. If you remember back to when you were in middle school, when you tended to see more girls that were taller than the boys, and then that sort of flips to boys being taller than girls during high school years. It's because boys tend to have that growth spurt a little later than girls do.
Now, is there any magic trick to know how tall will our child be? I'm sure a lot of parents have that question. They just are naturally curious.
That's a really common question. Parents want to know, how tall is my son or daughter going to be when they grow up? And so, there's a lot of different factors that are going to play a role in that, but there are some simple formulas that we can use to sort of predict or estimate the adult height. And so for boys, that tends to be the average of the parent height plus 6.5 centimeters. And then for girls, it's the average of the parent height minus 6.5 centimeters. And again, this is just a prediction and an estimation.
What else should parents know about puberty and this time during their kid's life?
So during puberty, especially in relation to the growth spurt, as I mentioned, lots of different factors might play a role. But in general, puberty years tend to be quite predictable. So boys and girls can experience puberty in different ways, right? It's very individual and sort of the emotions that kind of go along with it. But typically the order and the stages that happen during puberty are actually quite consistent and predictable. So if we're ever missing a stage of puberty, for example, a girl not achieving menarche by age 16 or the growth spurt not happening, that would be considered abnormal, and you do want to have your pediatrician or a specialist evaluate for reasons why that might not be occurring.
And lastly, let's just talk about the importance of nutrition and taking care of yourself during this time, how important that is for growth and development.
So during all of these changes, your body certainly needs a lot of good nutrition and calories to maintain the growth spurt, the physical changes, muscle mass changes, body mass changes during these years, right? And so you might notice, especially your teens kind of rummaging through the kitchen and the refrigerator a lot more during this time, because they really do need the calories and the nutrition to support all of that growth. And so on one hand, making sure they're kind of having the healthy, well-balanced diet. There are some studies that suggest lots of processed food and foods in high fat could actually contribute in a negative way to a lot of the growth and the development during puberty years. And on the other hand, restricting too much can also affect growth in a negative way. And so just really making sure that your teen has a well-balanced diet is really going to support all of the growth and the needs that they need nutritionally.
All right, Dr. Reese, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
And thank you all for watching. Don't forget you can check out our website. It's hopkinsallchildrens.org/newsroom, and you'll find a lot of other pediatric healthcare resources there as well. We'll see you next week.